Hello, Frisco, and welcome back. We are here with the re-elect Mayor Jeff Cheney campaign. Mayor, thank you for joining us again.
Yes, look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, so today we've kind of combined a lot of the questions that Mayor Cheney has been getting at meet and greets and at door knocking. So we're going to cover everything in this video from parks, some of our developments, neighborhoods, and traffic. So Mayor Cheney, I'm just going to jump right in. Where is the rail district and define what's going on there?
So the rail district is what we consider our historic downtown, Main Street, really kind of east of the railroad tracks, going to roughly kind of the North County area is kind of our old historic district. We do have plans to kind of use the area west of the tracks, which we refer to as Frisco Junction, and the silo property where Roller Town is going, to eventually kind of blend Frisco Square, kind of the new downtown, with the rail district, where it does feel like a contiguous kind of downtown experience. But as far as the investments that we're putting down there, it's really kind of in the heart of the historic district. And so, 6 years ago, this was a major campaign platform and differentiator in the election for my first term as mayor, which was my commitment to the rail district to make sure that it becomes, a true destination. We were starting to see private development start happening, developers like NAC Development, really making an investments, and people starting to believe in the energy. And it was starting to take on its own personality. And, now's the time where the city of Frisco can really do our part to help with infrastructure and improvements to really transform that and make people want to invest even more money. So we're about to invest $50 million. We learned a lot from our trip to Cary, North Carolina, where they're kind of a few years ahead of us as far as their downtown redevelopment. But what that's going to do is we're redoing Elm Street currently, to make that kind of another kind of east-west traffic thoroughfare like a Main Street. And so that is the road directly south of Main Street. So it's going to start creating kind of multiple blocks in our downtown. We're actually taking the on-street parking off of Main Street so that we can pull all those sidewalks out between 6 and 10 feet. So it's going to make it a lot more walkable. Some of the restaurants and, places like a Summer Moon can have more patio space out there. And as you drive down Main Street, you're just going to feel a different type of energy. It's going to make you want to pull over and go check it out. And also, it's going to be much easier to cross Main Street from the north and south sides across there. So again, be much more walkable, much more inviting. And then a big component is actually closing 4th Street. So 4th Street will be permanently closed, and we're going to turn it into a plaza area, gathering place that's going to have a stage and live music. And we really want it to feel like you just want that downtown rail district feel. And you just tell your friends to meet near the plaza, and then you'll figure out where you're going to go from there. Much like you may do at the Star currently. We're like, let's just go to the Star, and then we'll figure it out from there. So
that's wonderful.
Really excited about what's about to happen down there. It's going to really transform our downtown. And it's important. I mean, any world-class city, has a thriving downtown. That's kind of the heart and soul of the community. And that's what Frisco really needs.
I love that. I love that. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go further south. Where are we with Grand Park?
So Grand Park, kind of the urban legend of Frisco, is finally starting to move. I tell the story that what got me to run for city council in 2007 is I read an article about the vision of Grand Park and said, you know what, I want to be a part of making that come to life. And of course, with the Exide battery recycling plant and the cleanup and just that ongoing saga, it's really kind of delayed it now for over a decade. But we're finally to the point of getting started on that. We have humble beginnings. So we did open a trail, so you can go out there and start experiencing the property and see it and really kind of understand the scope of it and getting ideas. And we really just did that because we wanted people to start using the property so they can envision it. And, as we start designing it, let us know kind of what their vision is for the park. But we just signed a consulting contract with IDEO. They're very creative. So we're taking a different approach, kind of outside the box approach to this park design. They're a marketing firm that actually designed the first mouse for Apple. So they do a lot of really creative projects. So we're excited to see what they come up with. So it's going to be a 16-week sprint where we get citizen input and really kind of envision what that's going to look like. And then when we come out of it, we hope that we have an idea for a phase 1 type project that we can get started on within the next year.
Awesome. Awesome. And the final vision is for Grand Park to actually be bigger than New York Central Park. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Central Park in New York is 850 acres. And the park space we've dedicated to Grand Park, including all the trail networks, is over 1,000 acres. So it'd be more substantial than that. I believe
fantastic.
20 years from now, Grand Park will be the first thing people think of when they think of Frisco.
That's great. That's wonderful. Okay, so now let's move a little bit further south down the tollway. What's going on with Wade Park, the famous hole in the ground?
The big hole in the ground. So good news on Wade Park. So the new developer who has taken the project over is working with the city as we speak to start construction back up. You know, they were hoping to actually have it started by now, but it likely will start back up, you know, within perhaps even the next month. It's been rebranded as The Mix, so they do have a new name and brand for it. And the Whole Foods, from what we understand, is still expected to go in there, and they hope to open the whole legacy block from the tollway to Parkwood all in one phase. So that'd be the first phase of the project, including the Whole Foods, and get started here very quickly. So that's usually the number one question I get asked, and I can't wait to start seeing some work start happening again.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a Whole Foods finally here in Frisco. I mean, that's just that between that and HEB, we're gonna have all of our culinary needs like met 100%.
And I'm working on Trader Joe's too. That's the next.
That now then nobody even needs to leave town when that happens. That'll be awesome. Okay, so switching back to the trails again, we've had a question about marking the bike trails, and then also how is that going to fit into our entire traffic system here in Frisco?
So we have actually master planned our entire trail network, hundreds of miles of trails. You know, this is a passion of mine. It's absolutely a passion of Councilmember Bill Woodard. And so, you know, it's something we wanted to have a plan in place. A big challenge we had here in Frisco is as you're waiting for the community to develop, we had those kind of missing pieces, right? You go by a vacant tract of property that hadn't developed yet, and so the trail hadn't been put in. So we're kind of going through right now, making some of those final connections to really kind of have a more detailed plan. We will have marked bike lanes and bike paths. And so we did make the decision, you know, we want to be a bike friendly city. It is a big part of our transportation plan. I wish we would have done this with the entire city, you know, decades ago. But, you know, when you look at the north part of Frisco, you know, that's still very much wide open country.
Yeah.
And so what we did is a couple years ago is we went in and we designed our trail network before we actually designed our roads. And so what that means for the northern half of our city is as those trails go in, there'll be tens of miles of contiguous trails where you don't have to cross at grade, meaning that we've designed a trail network to go under the road or use a bridge corridor. And so it's going to have really incredible connectivity. You're going to be able to get from, you know, PGA Frisco on a bike all the way to UNT Frisco on Preston Road, literally without ever crossing a street.
Wow.
And so that's going to be a big part of living up there and really a big part of the transportation plan, because people that live in that area, you know, they're not going to all use their cars to go to dining when you can walk right there to a Fields West or to a Firefly Park or those kinds of things. So that's going to be kind of the lifestyle there. We're kind of going back, you know, since the southern part of the city wasn't designed with that same kind of thought in mind, finding ways to kind of create that same functionality as different developments, you know, come through the redevelopment process.
Okay. And speaking of transportation, are there any plans for Frisco to develop or have a public transportation system like DART or anything unique, interesting? Are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so how DART cities work, like Plano, is, you know, cities get the option of how they want to use their sales tax. So when you pay 8.25% sales tax, 6.25% goes to the state, 1% goes to a city's general operations budget, and kind of that final 1% is decided on by the community and how they would want to use that. So DART member cities have to commit that 1% to DART into perpetuity. Frisco had an election and said, instead, rather than having public transportation to take people to places of employment in other communities, we're going to use that to fund our Economic Development Corporation and our Community Development Corporation. So that means we use it to bring jobs here in our community rather than take people to jobs in other communities. And then the Community Development Corporation uses it to build regional parks. And that's how we fund some of these stadiums and all the quality of life type components that, come to Frisco. And so that's been, kind of our plan. We do have the rail line that goes through Frisco. So if Frisco ever wanted to have commuter rail, it is available to us. Truthfully, I don't see Frisco having the same density levels that really make something like that make sense. And how we're thinking about public transportation is technology is disrupting the transportation industry. And so even you're seeing private Uber, Lyft already start to be minor disruptions. But as we get to more autonomous vehicles and other ride sharing programs, that's the future of public transportation. We're not looking back 100 years, saying let's invest in those types of technologies. Let's look forward, the future of transportation, how we can use public-private partnerships. And that's how we're going to increase the mobility through our community.
Right. So moving down the food chain a little bit from the transportation and the traffic conversation, I want to talk now about apartments. Frisco seems to have, like, we either really love multifamily housing or we really don't. It's one or the other, and people seem to be very passionate about this topic. So my question for you is, how are you thinking about those workers who can't afford, frankly, a $500,000 home because they are a server at Mi Casina at the Star, and they're driving in from Richardson or some other affordable, more affordable suburb? How can we balance the need for multifamily housing, but yet make the citizens who don't like that happy also? Like, what are your thoughts on that, and how are you addressing that issue?
Yeah, I mean, multifamily, there's a big community misperception about that. And so one of, honestly, Frisco's issues is back, in the 80s, a lot of landowners came in and zoned their property for multifamily because it made their property more valuable,
Right.
kind of long term. So in 1990, we had 60,000 approved apartments in our community. Yeah, a big wow. And so it's been a long road to try to reduce that and to correct that. And so since 1990, from city councils and staff, just through negotiating with landowners, coming through plan developments, doing things like rezonings and those kinds of things, because we can't force somebody to give up their entitlements by state law being property rights, but we can negotiate with them. And through that process, the number of apartments actually has been reduced from 60,000 to 20,000 available. So there's 13,000 built right now, 6,700 still on the book. So actually, we've done a lot of work. Even since I've been elected, we've reduced it by 15,000 apartments, from being a council member and mayor. So still some work to do, and we still negotiate all those kinds of things. Frisco will never approve another garden style apartment. So garden style is the one that has surface parking, those kinds of things. Those are the ones that you traditionally see that, they're fine for the first 10 years, but then, may erode as they change management companies and those kinds of things. That's kind of people's natural think of apartments. So we'll never approve another one of those. Where apartments make sense is in kind of the work, live, play, mixed use districts on our urban spine. So, you look at, the Star, where in Frisco Station, that kind of all blends together, where, people that work at Keurig Dr. Pepper literally live right across the street in the apartments there, and then those people kind of help fill the restaurants, make them successful, and they all just kind of work together as complementary uses. That is a very intentional strategy, only in certain parts of our Dallas North Tollway where it makes sense. So kind of the very southern part. And then we'll see some more kind of in the northern as like Fields West gets built up, Firefly Park and those kinds of things to create the natural density. To your point, to help bring employment, to those areas and be able to kind of serve the whole commercial. Now, I will say that is something we still continue to work on. Frisco Chamber of Commerce has been good about how do we solve kind of workforce issues. We work directly with our private partners, like for instance, the Star, they actually have a busing program where they use their own buses to bring in employees to kind of work at, the Omni and some other different areas. They're having conversations with the University of North Texas. That's becoming a great asset for some of these to start actually using students, as to help them with the employment there. In fact, UNT Frisco has moved their hotel and hospitality programming to their Frisco campus. And so you're going to have students, getting advanced degrees in that field and be able to apply those skills, whether it's at PGA Frisco, Universal Studios, or the Star, kind of right here in their own backyard. So those are going to all start working together to complement each other.
That's excellent. So on that note of apartments and build out, how soon do you think we will be built out, and what will our population number be at that point? Your estimate.
Yeah, when we were looking at our 2015 comprehensive plan, we had more density in that plan, and we started doing those numbers, and we were calculating numbers like 450,000. And that kind of alarmed us, honestly, when we started doing the studies, like, okay, how much park space per capita do we need to maintain the same quality of life? And, really did advanced calculations. And what we found is, we need to get that final build out number, closer to the 325 type range. And we have already done that. So that was work that, this council has done to kind of remove some of that. Part of it was putting in maximum density requirements like we did, the open space requirements that I've talked a lot about, phasing, all those things have kind of brought that final population down to make really Frisco fully livable build out. We have 16% of land still that isn't under some type of development. Now, a lot more than that is under development. It may take years to kind of build out. But I would say kind of our rooftops, the vast majority of those would be done, here in the next 7 to 10 years, where the residential will be built out. We're going to see a lot of growth in our commercial corridor right now. I mean, just the path of growth is coming through Frisco right now, on its way to Salina.
Yes.
So, but that'll be, completed over probably 20 years. I mean, you even talk to Craig Hall at Hall Park, as much as he already has there, he still thinks he's got another 15 to 20 years to go there. And all these others that will continue to come, which I think would be a natural kind of healthy pace, as we build out the city.
Wonderful. Okay, so as we wrap up here, let's talk about the bond proposals that are also on the ballot, so our voters can be educated about those.
Yes, really important bond election. So the total amount is 473 million. When we did the budget, as we sell these bonds, over call it a 5 to 7 year period, we don't anticipate it raising the tax rate at all. We're going to have some old bonds kind of roll off the books, but really the proper propositions are, the first one is for police and fire, public safety. It's 131.4 million. So it's going to include funding for Fire Station 11, some fleet services. We need to remodel Fire Station 4. It's just some other things to increase the safety of firefighters and so forth. So that's an important public safety measure.
So that we continue to stay the #1 safest city in America.
That's right. If you're not staying in front of it, that's how it erodes.
Yep.
The second one is 240 million for streets and roads, to continue to build out that infrastructure as we grow. 39 million for city facilities. So our parks needs a new building. Literally, they have part of their building being held up by duct tape. It's a little embarrassing. We need to build them a new building and get them in there. But this will basically get our facilities to full build out. That's what we've been focusing on the last couple of bond elections. Like our library for full build out, and our courthouse is our courthouse for full build out. So that's really important. $43 million for more parks and trails. And then the one we get the biggest question about, I would say, is 20 million for a downtown parking garage.
Okay.
And so why that is important, as I mentioned earlier in this interview, that we're about to invest $50 million to make it a much more desirable place to go, and that people will want to be there. More businesses are going to want to grow. We're taking the parking off Main Street. And so with more people wanting to go there, they need a place to park. And so this will kind of complete out the rail district and the vision for that. And that's why that's an important item.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, Mayor Cheney, any final thoughts as we wrap up here today?
No, I mean, as we've talked about today, we still have a lot of work to do, and I look forward to getting it done.
3 more years. All right. Well, everyone, early voting has already started final election day is May 6th. So there is plenty of information on the city website, on Mayor Jeff Cheney's website. So mayorcheney.com to get information on where to vote, depending on where you live, and get out and vote. And let's continue all of the happy, prosperous growth that we have here in Frisco. Thank you so much, Mayor Cheney, for joining us today.
Thank you.